And so as I speak, I've spent 30 plus years working all around the world. And I've worked in parts of the world where there are official and underground Adventist movements. And I've seen repeatedly the circumstances under which those events take place. I'm sharing these things with maybe people in Michigan, as you say, many of whom have never traveled to these parts of the world, many of whom have almost no understanding of the history of these things. And for them, it's unthinkable that there will be an underground Adventist church. And I'm not suggesting we have an underground Adventist church. I'm simply sharing with people that historically, when there are problems in the leadership of the church, that faithful Adventists often just organize themselves until those problems can be resolved. And so I'm pointing out to the home church that we need to learn the lessons of history. And the lesson of history is that if there are leadership who are pushing apostasy, who are trampling on conscience, who are siding with godless regimes over the consciences of their members, that those members historically organize themselves. So I'm not recommending this, but I'm letting people know this because many of them are simply unaware of these historical realities. So even today in Vietnam, there is an official Adventist church and an underground Adventist church. And the issue is the Sabbath. And the church, the official church, they believe that it's okay to send children to school on the Sabbath and to go to university on the Sabbath and to take your exams on the Sabbath. And in the former Soviet Union, that was also one of the tests. And the church split along those lines. And in 1924, 1928 Soviet Union, the Adventist church moved from a position of conscientious objection, which was our position from the American Civil War onwards, to 1928, they were recommending that our young men serve in Stalin's armies. And many of the Adventists said, we cannot in good conscience do this. And so there arose what we now call the true and free Adventists, who an underground unofficial Adventist movement that survived all the way through the Soviet Union. And when the Soviet Union collapsed, then the true and frees and the official Adventist church kind of came together again. And so these are historical realities. And when I speak about these things, I'm helping educate members in the West who many of them are ignorant of these matters. They don't know their history. And many of them have never traveled beyond the United States. And they've never seen the awful choices that Adventists have to make when their church leaders side with godless regimes. And there have been many instances in Adventist history of where our leadership has sided with godless regimes. So in 1930s Germany, we were supporters of Adolf Hitler, the German church leaders. And as our leaders wrote statements that in great ages, there needs to be great men, such as Adolf Hitler. And in World War I Germany, that led to the Reform movement. The church said that it's okay to work in the arms factories on the Sabbath, and we encourage all of our Adventists to fight for the Kaiser. And then they disfellowshipped all of the Adventists who held to the World Church's position of conscientious objection in times of war. And so there are repeated instances, Soviet Union, General Pinochet in Argentina, and then you also have what happened in South Korea, in the South Korean military dictatorships in the 1960s. And so time and again, when the church is faced with totalitarian demands by totalitarian government, the church kind of wiggles around and does as much as it can to accommodate to the demands of that totalitarian regime in order to preserve its institutions and to preserve its legal status. And oftentimes that comes at the expense of either our doctrines, such as the truth about the Sabbath, or at the expense of our members, such as in COVID, where we supported mandates over the consciences of our members. So when I talk about these things, number one, many Adventists in the West have almost no understanding of these facts. And so I'm not promoting separationism. But what I am saying is when the church and its leadership sides with and supports totalitarian demands that are inconsistent with Scripture, then the members have to make hard choices. And I've been keeping appealing, like the appeal to Amish nobility was an appeal to them to return to the principles of the Reformation and to honour and stand by the liberty of conscience of our members. I was not asking the members to separate. I was asking the leaders to stand up for what we believe in.
Very good distinction.
And that's an important distinction. And that may be accused of being a separationist, but what I want is for our church to uphold what we believe, because God has given us a beautiful message, and the 28 fundamental beliefs are maybe the clearest picture of God we're going to have on planet Earth, and they all point to Jesus one way or the other.
Okay.
And when we side with totalitarian demands, we inevitably compromise. And that compromise often comes at the expense of the members, their livelihoods, their consciences. And then members have to make hard choices. So the solution is not separationism. The solution is for our leaders to uphold what we believe and to be willing to pay a price for what we believe.